Oh, I was trying to throw Andrew on here. Hey, we're working all these little details out, but it's definitely the good thing was, we've got guests on tonight. Hi, this is Zach from Gravel by California, and tonight my co-host is Andrew from Gravel Pack Riverside.
How you guys doing?
I'm doing well, and I'm super excited to talk about this area. It's one of those things like, us living in Southern California, you look at maps, you look at pictures, and you don't really know an area until you actually experience it. And then to have an event like this to bring people in, I think is the right way to do it, because if I'm first timer guy out there with no one to, just doing it all on my own, that could be very scary. But we know people that come from Southern California to drive up to this event.
Yep. What better way to view it than by gravel bike, where you get to see a completely different new area? I know for me, a lot of gravel bikes started with watching your videos, doing some of those things and going, hey, I'm going to venture somewhere else with all these other people. And I get to see this area that's very different, at least for me, from Southern California to the Sierras. It's just a pretty awe-inspiring place. And I'm looking forward to talking to them.
Okay, well, the waiting is over. Let's bring in Greg and Marty here from Sierra Buttes Trail Stewardship. Good evening, fellas. How you doing?
Doing great.
Great. Good evening. Yeah, good to see you, Zach. Good to see you, Andrew. Thanks for having us on.
You guys seem to be dressed in t-shirts. Is the weather that kind out there right now, or how's it looking?
Yeah.
Well, I'm at our home office tonight, and it's above. We're probably around 35 degrees, but we just had a pretty good walloping that came through Northern California that dumped some places in Tahoe probably upwards of 8+ feet. My yard at home right now, which is a few minutes from the office, I've got 2 to 3 feet. So it's not a blizzard any longer, but it was there.
Yeah, I would say I know how you guys feel, because we had about 1/10 of an inch of rain last week, and oh my God, we were scrambling through the hills.
8 feet of snow, 1/10 inch of rain.
Yeah. So
yeah,
our marketing director's in Southern California, and it is interesting. Every once in a while, you'll see her on one of our meetings, and she'll have like a little shell on or something. It's like, wow, is it Nicole? Is it really raining in SoCal right now? Is it storming? And she's, well, yeah, it misted earlier for about 90 seconds, and we got a torrential storm that came through.
Well, I kind of want to start with the thing that always intrigues me the most about traveling across California is just the different geology, landscapes, and just regions and zones. And this area, even though I haven't been directly to this part, I've encircled it, but kind of from the volcanic connection and is far different from other parts of the state. And so tell us a little bit about the region.
Yeah, this is Northern Sierra, north of Truckee. A lot of people think that California ends at the Interstate 80 border, but if you are coming up Interstate 80 and when you get to Truckee, you go left instead of going right, you're going to end up in the Lost Sierra, which is the zone, we live in. It's where the Sierra meets the Cascade Range. And you're talking about that volcanic area. It's like Lassen. We also have the Great Basin, which is, like that Nevada influence. So you get those high deserts, big pine trees, big mountains, lots of lakes, rivers. We're at the headwaters of the largest watershed in California, the Feather River, which delivers pretty much like, around 60% of California's clean drinking water.
Wow.
So this is a cool zone. And our forests here, between the Plumas, Tahoe, and Lassen, there's over 10,000 miles of dirt roads, which is why we claim to be like the gravel capital of the West here in Plumas County. So having Lost and Found was just like a way for us to, introduce people to the area. A lot of people, like, you look at a map and you see 10,000 miles of dirt roads, like you don't really know where to start. So part of this was like mapping it out, dialing in, some really great routes, and then having a stopwatch for people to, push themselves to the limits.
Yeah, I love the name too, because it's like we can all get lost in a good way in a place you guys found, right? Lost and Found.
Yeah. Well, that name, we were out exploring, like trying, a buddy of mine, Chris McGovern, at Interbike one year was like, man, you guys should do, because we've been doing the Downeyville Classic forever. He's like, this new thing, it's gravel. You guys should do an event. And I was like, I don't even know what that means. Like old school mountain biking, like we used to just ride dirt roads and explore stuff, go to swim holes. And so it was like, yeah, kind of like that, like the old days of like when we would, ride bikes on the dirt roads, and it's a thing. So he came out and we started like trying to dial in some routes, and I got to this beautiful valley that Lost and Found takes you through. And there was one big old bull just sitting out there. And I was like, man, is he lost? Or, maybe he's found himself out there. Like, and then trying to like figure out what we're going to call it. I'm like, it's Lost and Found, man. Like, that was it. But yeah, it's a great name. And it's like, it just describes the event so well for, what we're trying to do and how people feel.
There's the cow. That's the bull that Greg saw right there. There it is.
Yeah.
Looks like he found himself on your socks.
Wow. A cow got
Well, there's vicious cows. There's vicious cows out there too, which is like a whole nother part of the course. Is there was a sign, a paint painted on plywood out in the middle of nowhere that said "vicious cows on road." So we kind of took that, it's like, I don't know, some signs just come to you and you're like, this is it, this is what's happening. So we, took that and created some cartoon characters on the vicious cows.
Love it.
Wow, that cow has an NIL deal. Amazing.
Yeah. Well, there was that gravel race like in Fresno or Bakersfield maybe, where those guys, like, they were getting too close to that big old bull, and he just like let them have it, and our insurance, like, at the time was like, man, is that what's going on out there? These are the vicious cows. And we're like, oh no, doesn't have anything to do with that.
So just to give a bigger picture of the region, are both of you from this area, or what's your connection to this part of California?
I'll go first on this one because mine's shorter. Greg's got a little more, a much deeper connection. I've lived in California for most of my life, moving from the Midwest, but my connection to the Stewardship and meeting Greg stemmed from the Downeyville Classic. Back in the late '90s, moved into volunteering, being the voice of the Classic. Then when we started the CRSB Trail Stewardship in 2003, doing whatever I could to help, being on an advisory board, and eventually now, just literally within the last 2 years, moving to Quincy, and my wife and my family. COVID kind of allowed that to happen, but the kids not getting full school years, and we were still in Northern California, but always a little bit of distance away. So for me, it's been a career of passion, even when it hasn't been my full career, and now I am full time with the Stewardship. But it's always been something that, if I'm going to have a tombstone, when I leave and become the dirt of the earth once again, there's going to be something about the Stewardship on it, just from all the blood, sweat, and tears. But so the connection to the Sierras have always been something for me and for my children, and the coast too. So for me personally, that was the compromise. Well, the kids are going to grow up in the mountains, be mountain kids, and when they leave, we'll look at some coast if we can afford any coast at that point in time, and retire on the coast. But Greg's got a much more a deeper connection to this area, and it's a great story.
Yeah, I've been in the region my whole life. On my dad's side was Miwok Indian, and then on my mom's side was Eastern Sierra Rancher. So, yeah, grew up living in the zone and started riding bikes at a really early age, and BMX, and then as a teenager found mountain biking and kept me out of trouble and in the best swimming holes in the Northern Sierra. So yeah, bikes have just been a part of my life the whole time, and raising my family here, and yeah.
Now, I see that even though, like, for the lost and found, like the large course is like 100 miles, that covers like a small portion of the area that the Sierra Buttes is involved with. How did this your organization get its start? And did it have like these big aspirations when it was formed?
No, I mean, yeah, the Stewardship was kind of built backwards. It was built when I was like my early 20s. I started a mountain bike tour company in Downeyville. So Downeyville's first permitted mountain guide, and started the Coyote Classic, which became the Downeyville Classic in 1995. So I had these two like working businesses, and then the Forest Service basically started to lose their funding for trails. So there was a group of us living in Downeyville that kind of just took things into our own hands to keep the trails open each year, and put the Forest Service, and realized like we needed funding to be able to pull it off and to get some more tools. And so 2003 formed a nonprofit, and then took basically like the profits from my business to just kickstart this organization. So yeah, definitely didn't think that we would be doing what we're doing. We just wanted to keep the trails open in Downeyville. These are trails that are, historic. Some are prehistoric, back to when the Miwok and the Nisenan were living in the area, to just get back and forth to different areas. So these trails are super precious, and they're also like, they weren't built to be sustainable necessarily. They were just like, you got to get to point A to point B. And then as wheeled traffic got, more popular, and the town started to rely on them, just realized like we gotta keep them open. And we got an opportunity basically to like start working in other areas, like north, like up in Quincy where Marty is right now, and building new trails, and then using the events to just build, the knowledge and get the word out to people, like come visit. Like, we build trails, but we like build communities, and we're like more in the, I would say, like economic and community development side of things. Like trails are the tool, but really we're trying to build communities and keep people living up here, and have people spending money in our businesses so that we can like have businesses. So it's really, using recreation to keep people living up here, and to invite people to come enjoy it, and create opportunities for an economy that relied on logging and mining for generations. And now those economies are gone. But all these, like for gravel riding, like all these roads are still here. You can still ride to all the towns on a back road and not see anybody, and, camp out on campgrounds and fish along the way. And, there's nothing like it in the West, I would say.
And without stewardship, because I know we're losing here in my city without stewardship, will people doing exactly what you guys are doing here, which is why I think you know, and I'm not going to speak for Zach, but that's so appealing to have a stewardship because we're all losing dirt roads. You know, without that, we're all going to lose where we're riding. So it's really awesome that you guys are doing that. And you got some comments in there too, Zach.
Yeah, I'll get to them when we get to those are course questions. So Michael will have to hold on for a second. Sorry, I'm wearing his shirt. Which kind of sidetracked me now from my next question, but actually, you know, I did want to. This does tie in kind of like where I wanted to go. Was I think like what you were alluding to was the connected communities, you know, project and plan that you have here, and I'm sure for people, it's hard to get the scale of exactly how big of an area this is, but how is this project in plan conceived? Because this is probably like at least 150 miles from point to point from where you're connecting some of these areas. I mean, not node to node, but like the whole entire span.
No, this was like one of those moonshots, I guess is what you call it. You know, like a concept that, you know, we've been building trails, well, mostly maintaining trails in Downeyville. We had gone into Gray Eagle. We had started to develop trails in Quincy and had like really, and we still do, like had really solid relationships with the counties, with those Forest Service, with the communities, Chamber of Commerce, and kind of these neighboring towns, you know, these are all disadvantaged communities economically. And people started, you know, like, hey, what about us? Like, you know, we're in the same forest. Like, we have beautiful terrain, you know, like, why couldn't we have trails? Why can't we have people visiting where we live? And I got invited to present, just talk about the stewardship at this called Mountain Ventures. And it was a kind of a recreation conference in Mammoth. And so instead of just talking about like, here's what we do and the regular thing, I put together this pitch deck and called it Connected Communities. And it was basically like, what if all these towns were connected by trails and the people were connected? Like, that's part of it too, is that like, you know, we're all isolated in our own little town, our own little valley, and our own little canyon, and you kind of lose touch with people, you know? So what if we were all connected by trails, but also by an economy and by like a common vision? So I presented this at the Ventures Summit, and man, there was a guy in the crowd who was with Sierra Nevada Conservancy, and he stood up at the end and he's like, all right, I'm in. Let's fund this thing. And it was like oh man, here we go moment, you know, like, all right, well, but it took a couple of years working with Sierra Nevada Conservancy and with ourselves to just like really kind of figure out like, what does it all mean? Like, what are the towns, you know, like how many miles is this thing going to be? Like what's the scope? And then we wrote a grant. We got funded through Sierra Nevada Conservancy, and we wrote the grant. We thought like, oh, it's probably going to be like 250 miles, you know, to connect 13 towns. So we're about 6 years into this thing now, and we're getting ready to publish the plan. And it's closer to like 550 miles once you really like, we want these to be trails, like traveling trails, not like bad trails. So we want to shoot like lower grades, like they'd be perfect for bike packing, you know, because we already have like places like Downeyville and Quincy where like if you want to go get rad and ride the steep and gnarly stuff, like you can do that. So the idea is each of these towns would have its own kind of flavor of trails, like stacked loop systems. They'd all be their own destination. But these linear trails to get you from town to town are going to be traveling trails. And there's going to be like campgrounds or fire lookouts that you can rent overnight to stay at. You know? So we're getting ready to publish that plan. 15 towns is what we're up to. Like we started with 13. We added Truckee. We added Reno. We added Jonesville, which is in Butte County. So it's Plymouth, Sierra, Lassen, Nevada, Butte counties in California, and then Washoe County in Nevada. And it's the Humboldt-Teabe, the Plumas, Tahoe, Lassen National Forests, with also the Pacific Southwest Region 5, like the mothership of all California forests, is signed onto this. So this project has like unprecedented support. Like there's never been a project in all of history that's had this kind of support.
Wow.
It's because we're trying to revitalize these communities, you know, that have been hard hit by the loss of jobs because of the industries, and then most recently because of wildfires. We just had California's largest wildfire, which wiped out one of the towns, Greenville. So it, you know, really caused us to like rethink, like, why, what are we doing here too? You know, like it's because recreation, it's because these trails, it's because of the place, and we want to keep taking care of it. So again, this is like the people's project. This is the people's plan. This is about economies and communities and trying to retain good people and also invite more good people to come participate.
You know, last year I did the Lassen Gravel Adventure there out of Susanville, and you know I've ridden like Reno and Truckee, and then I remember a couple years ago I was riding some people from Chico. We went up to Jonesville, and you know they were pointing out like, you know, this is going to be part of this whole thing, and you know kind of the connection of this whole network. I mean, they were really excited about this. And I know that there's other communities, especially in Northern California, that kind of see like this type of footprint being like super valuable to, you know, their area's growth as well. But you know, it's very hard for everyone to make these first steps towards, you know, trying to build this type of project or have the framework. What type of advice would you give to some of these communities that are kind of dipping their toe and, you know, having the same type of feeling about, you know, what this could mean?
Yeah, I mean, we want this to be, at the end of the day, we want this to be a model, like the recipe book, you know, like this is how you as a community, especially working with the National Forest or BLM, like if you're working with a land manager like that, like you have to have a playbook of how you're going to deal with it, how you're going to organize your community, how you're going to present the project, how you're going to fund the project, how you're going to take care of the project after it's done. You know, like that's what we're trying to lay out is, you know, we don't know everything, but we have a pretty good idea of how to do this. And this is going to be like a building block for other communities. And we've had such great engagement with like the counties and the cities and the forests, you know, languages that we use, the way we've laid out the trails, the vision, like we feel like it's replicable, not just in the West, but across the world. And that's really like what we see this as, is like, you may not ever come to the La Sierra and experience this place, but you take the same recipe book and apply it in your community, like organize and to get things done. And then, you know, more importantly, I guess, is that the Forest Service recognizes this and accepts it and is consistent with how they deal with communities, how they deal with organizations. Like we're working across 5 different forests and about 15 or so different districts of the forest. And you could work in the same forest in a different district and it would be night and day difference how those 2 districts behave. So we're trying to create like consistency for everybody. Like this is going to be valuable to the forest. It's going to be valuable to the communities. It's going to be valuable to the counties, to the cities, you know, so everybody's on the same page. Everybody works together. Everybody collaborates. And, you know, I think the other part of it is like, you know, we've early on, we just had this acronym idea, which is inclusion, diversity, equity, and access, like for all user groups, right? Like we're trying to develop opportunities for bicycles, for equestrian, for mountain bikes, for motorcycles, for e-bikes. Like if you can fit on a trail, you want to have an opportunity where you come and participate and be like a steward and end up on the main street of one of these towns with your credit card spending money in these towns. Like we don't want to discriminate. Like get into the town, spend your money, be cool, be respectful. But this is a very inclusive project, and I think that's why it's been so popular, like with the communities, is like we live kind of in the middle of nowhere. Like people ride dirt bikes, people ride mountain bikes, people ride e-bikes, people ride horses. We all get along, so we don't want to like start excluding people in the opportunities we're trying to create.
Zach and Andrew too, this and Greg mentioned it, the recipe book is a really good idea to use, and he just mentioned it. This our idea in this trail system comes into the town. I mean, the John Muir Trail, awesome. The Pacific Crest Trail, awesome. The Appalachia Trail, awesome. I mean, those are epic, worldwide known. I mean, they're awesome trail systems. But the PCT to get into Quincy is a hitchhiking or a long hike. From where it crosses any roadway. So this is a way that we can help complement not only those awesome trail systems, but find a way for traversing this trail system in your own format, and then get to the gnarly. Because it'll connect to these communities, and that's where the recipe book really works in other communities, remote or even urban. To where that urban trail system may connect into this, that gets you to a system where you can get to the gnarly and the fun. Depending on what your flavor is of trail, even to the kayaking side. So that's one thing that we really found that doesn't exist. And Greg's vision with connected communities kind of really hit the nail on the head with this is bring respectfully and responsibly bring the trail users of outdoor recreation, which is nearly $1 trillion business, which eclipses many other major businesses in the United States alone. And let's let these small communities tap into that in a respectful way, using their own recipe book based on what maybe we have done in the beginning. And really that's, and fundraising's tough, with the Forest Service, Greg mentioned early on, with the Forest Service losing money. And of course, that's why we have events. That's why we do events and other fundraising opportunities. But anything that can help, and if it's something that's congruent across this nation, through all the Forest Service communities, BLM lands, land managers, then they know what's coming. And there could be opportunities for smaller organizations to band together, stewardship such as ours, or brand new ones, to be able to make this applicable to their areas. And let's get our kids out on the trails, and let's get our seniors out on the trails when they can.
I love it. It looks like you guys made an electrical diagram, and all of the towns are these little light bulbs that you guys are able to light up. I love that picture. Yeah, it's really good.
Let's get into the festival, because I know, like, for probably like a lot of people, they're not next door neighbors. It's a trip, but the idea that this is a festival and a multi-day event, definitely makes it worth the trip. And I don't think I'm sure you guys can speak to it, but I mean, like, obviously part of the trip itself isn't just the ride, it's the festival, it's the stuff you can see around the area. You're not too far from Reno, Truckee, Lake Tahoe, but tell a little bit about the event as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, it started as just a one-day event, and being like we've done Downeyville for, like, again, so long that we want to bring people up for multiple days. We didn't want them to just like come for the day in their car and leave, So we wanted to, like, hey, come up. Here's a bunch of maps. Here's some cool places to check out. Really invite them to experience the place, because part of it, there's people that are lost and found that, like, move up here. They're like, this place is awesome. I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to move up here. Like, those are the kind of people we want. Like, we're losing population still in our region, we can like have people that love the outdoors and like ride bicycles move here, like all the better, you know? So, you know, I think at the foundation of it is like really like we want to put on like the best race. We want to have the best race courses, you know, the best timing, start to finish, have people just be like, man, that was awesome. But at the end of the day, we want them to come, bring their family and friends and experience like this region, you know, like Lake Davis, which just sits just above Portola, awesome fishing, bunch of really nice campgrounds, like huge Jeffrey Pines, like a really mellow single track trail that goes around the lake, fire lookouts you can ride to, you know, big open valleys. Like we want people to experience this place. And then the festival, like we all love music and dancing and having fun together. So if we're gonna like agonize, put this event on and do all this work, like we want a good party just for ourselves and our families and friends. So, you know, Friday we have live music going. We have live music on Saturday night, usually like pretty good like funk, you know, headliner band. And then Sunday, like, you know, if your legs still permit, like go pedal around a little bit more. But, you know, all in all, like we want people camping together, riding together, meeting new friends, just experiencing this place. And then with the goal of like, they come back, like I said, whether they decide they want to live here or, you know, they just want to keep come visiting. Like Portola is like a town that, you know, was a railroad town basically and a timber town, and timber's gone. And then the railroad, Union Pacific runs through there, but they moved like all their high paying jobs into Reno. So like we need to create some jobs, you know, we want businesses to like thrive there. We want the schools to, you know, have kids in them. So this is like one attempt, you know, it's not like the fix all end all of everything, but you know, recreation can certainly help.
All you GBCers out there.
Yeah, these events are like any town could have an event like this. Again, it's like a model, you know, it's like you want to bring people to your town, here's how you do it. Not that I'd recommend like at the level we're at, like there's a lot of costs, you know, like we put ourselves out there pretty big to be able to pull these things off. But these gatherings, these types of like bike rides and events like are what builds communities and builds an identity for a town that, you know, like Portola, it's kind of lost its identity. You know, it was a railroad town. Now it's the gravel capital of the West.
Well, I did want to bring up the course map, not necessarily just to talk the course, but when I was kind of going through it, you know, maybe I'm speaking to an audience of me, but I, you know, rarely do I like get this because I do a lot of these 3D maps I throw into Google Earth, but you know, just having like the sense of this area where I know like, you know, parts of the Sierra are super heavily forested, but you know, it's just interesting here in the region how you know, it's not completely covered, and I think part of it is probably from the geology itself. But I don't know if you want to speak to the course or maybe a little bit about the region. You can guide me through this if you'd like. But you know, when I threw it down, I was like, I didn't expect you know, these two lakes that are in there. They're not natural, are they?
No, they have dams or reservoirs. Yeah. Yeah, I would say this is our best version. Like I said, like we'd gone through a couple, like, you know, we're probably like 4 or 5 race courses in at this point. And part of it was like learning gravel racing too, right? Like you want a big climb in the beginning so people separate. And so they're not like bunched up and like in tight formation when they get to rutted roads, you know, like some things we've learned the hard way, you know. but this course, I feel like for us too, like, you know, it's like the 100-mile, like it's hard, but it's fast. You know, there's no like super long drained out climbs like we had in the beginning. We had like the last 23 miles was all uphill in the first couple of times that we had it. So this has like been an education piece for us too as race promoters of like, what's the best course? You know, like we feel like we have an awesome 35 miler that like is a great introduction for people to gravel. You know, it's like it has 2 aid stations. And then the 60 mile is like what I would, you know, if I was going to do this thing, like it's beautiful. It takes you through the valleys, takes you along the lake, through the mountains. Like it's an epic course. The 100-mile is like, you know, if you're that fit, it's beautiful too. You know, it's like the ultimate 100-miler. And then one thing that we did that's for this year is like we produced the very first Grinduro event with Duro. Like we developed the operating plan, the format. Like basically they had an idea like, hey, we have this name. It's called Grinduro. We want like a couple stages of timed racing. Like we took that and developed what Grinduro is in terms of the racing, the culture, the music, the venue. That was, you know, that was our workings. And so with Lost and Found, it was like, all right, let's take that. And we're starting to bring that back into Lost and Found. Like we're going to have 3 time segments this year within the course. So even the 35 miler is going to get 3 time segments. So you're going to get a hill climb, you're going to get like a rolling pavement, and then you're going to get like a really awesome descent into Sierra Valley, which is the largest alpine valley in America. And it's dicey, you know, so everybody gets 3 time segments within their respected like course length.
And,
awesome.
and you guys, and what's, you know, and this is the true Lost and Found that goes back to even to the naming too, that, you know, literally, I mean, Zach, when you put up that course, I mean, you can see some pretty rugged territory there. And literally, if you were by yourself out on one of those gravel roads, you know, especially with no cell service, you could literally be lost out there. And you know, the aid station format that we really, I think, along with some of our partners like Paul Components, you know, and WTB, really helped champion a very rider integrated aid station. So it's not just your typical whatever your race fuel is, water, race fuel liquid. I mean, we've got bacon wrapped pickles, we've got bacon in cups, we've got grilled cheese sandwiches out on course on the 100-mile course, and Rice Krispie treats, music playing, DJs, things where folks can hang out for a little bit. And, you know, there are cutoff times because, you know, we do have a safety factor. We have to get everybody back to Portola safely. Yeah. But it's set up in such a way that, yeah, you can race and grind, but sometimes even the pros will work together, you know, and they'll make the decision that, hey, we're going to stop at these aid stations. We may even be there for a minute or two, you know, before we travel on and then just try to destroy each other, you know, in the last 20, in the last 20 miles. But we wanted that same effect, you know, for the 35, the 60, and the 100, so that everybody feels that they're fully supported. And it, you know, and though you may be truly lost on this gravel road in the beautiful Forest Service of this area, you're going to be found no matter what. And at all times, you know, we've got your back, and we're going to protect you all the way through. And the 3 time sections that Greg was talking about, this is just kind of a little bit more of some bragging rights, because we have folks that just want to ride. This is their personal goal to, you know, if they rode the 60-mile last year, it's like, this year I'm going to do the 100. I'm going to make it. I'm going to do it. And my family's going to support me. And while I'm doing it, my kids are going to be doing the kids race back in Portola Park in downtown Portola. They're going to be listening to live music, you know, food. There's going to be raffles going on, fun things going on too. So they know that no matter what, their family's having a good time, they're having a good time. And these 3 time sections, and I'll just mention them. One's the Grizzly Grind, and it's a 1.2 mile hill climb, and it's, you know, it's only 407 feet, but it's a little time section, 1.2 miles. You know, it's going to allow some folks to have some bragging rights, to get some nice swag. The Crocker Cruise, this is a flat one. I mean, it's got a total gain elevation of 37 feet. So this is flat tracking for 2.8 miles, rolling on the pavement. Who's got their sprinter legs on? Who can do it? You know, who can fold this into, you know, their course? And then the Dota downhill, which sounds kind of weird for a gravel race. But, you know, there are some technical sections on this when you get to the final section of the 60, the 100, and the 35. And, you know, that's where some folks ride a fully rigid mountain bike, or they're on a truly, you know, just tricked out gravel bike, what tire size they use. But the downhill section is 2.8 miles. It's got 731 feet. And there's some technical stuff in there. And this is just another way for folks to have fun, maybe get some swag, and it doesn't affect their overall time for the course. So, you know, it's bragging rights. If they know that they got the legs in this one section, it's whatever we can do to help people enjoy this area. And if they come back, if they decide like, hey, we just got to come back and ride the 60-mile course and spend the weekend in Portola and stay at a hotel, eat at the restaurants, and have fun in the beautiful La Sierra, then, I mean, we've checked a bunch of boxes on our mission statement. And that's what we want folks to do, is come back and, you know, respectfully and responsibly enjoy the area. And of course, the bottom line of the Lost and Found, with registrations, our sponsorships, and fundraising, you know, every single dollar of net profit goes right back into every single program, especially connected communities, with what we do to continue to build and maintain this trail system and build new ones.
Yeah, it's awesome. And when me and Zach were looking at the website, you guys are very thoughtful with all of the courses. I feel like a lot of event organizers, they pick their favorite and they build out from there. I don't know if you did that, but I can't tell that you did that, because all of the different courses, super thoughtful. And then the website and the map, how laid out, we were kind of nerding out about that too. So it's really, really great job. So all you GBCers can check out that website. There's a lot of info there.
Mother Nature and fire has helped us throughout this course as well, over the years as well. And Greg and his team, when they set up these courses, and this one especially, and we've got a logistics partner that comes in and helps us, because there are those of us, especially like Greg and myself, and you can definitely consider us OGs from what we've done, you know, throughout our years of the Downeyville Classic. And this is, we want to enjoy a little more of the festival and not try to beat the heck out of ourselves, you know, by the time the weekend's over. And our logistics partner even commented from the weather forcing us into this course of a heavy snow year. Well, I think it's a gem. I mean, I think we found it. And, you know, through surveys, our riders and folks who said, wow, you guys, best course ever, don't change it. So, that's testament to Greg and his trail crew and getting out there and giving us awesome riding.
Yeah, we brought in Breakaway Promotions, Chad and his team up in Oregon, to help us like run the logistics for this, and they've been great. It allows us to focus on kind of the funner, like more festival vibe, and they can worry about like the start, the finish, the timing, you know, all the kind of logistics of the event, which, you know, we have experience with. It's just, you know, we're focused on building trails. Like, we need to like get the connected communities thing. We need to like pay attention to that. And so being a Breakaway in allows us to keep these events at a really top level, super professional, fun, but allow our staff to really focus on like writing grants and building trails. And but one thing, like for any of the courses, like, don't bring like your skinny tires. You know, this is like a Downeyville Classic version of gravel. You know, like, these roads are rough. They're not. Some of them aren't maintained. These are backcountry roads, and some, you know, they're like, this is the finest, but it's rough in some spot.
Well, I guess, yeah, that was a question somebody asked beforehand. About tire size, and then I think you answered Michael's question. The descent is going to be there again at mile 90 if it's the same one. But yeah, another thing that, you know, me and Andrew were looking at, which was like the number of aid stations you have out there. You know, it's almost like every 12 miles, which is really nice and convenient. And I think, you know, that's one part of it all. But I think, like, you know, when we talk to people that have done it before, they speak about like what a stellar event this is, and every facet, from the aid stations to the help out there to the festival, and making it a big experience. And it's easy for us to talk about it, but I know it's a lot harder to put together in practice. But I know everyone that's gone to this has just only said special things.
Yeah, I think the aid stations are a way for like our partners. It's like Paul Components, WTB, Patagonia, Shimano's been out there, Mike's Bikes. It's like a chance for them to really like not just be, I don't know, you go to events like Sea Otter, and you just put up a booth and you hope people come by your booth, and it's like, hey, good to see you, blah blah blah. Like, you put people, like these companies are out in the wild and they're helping people and they're interacting with them, like they're cooking bacon for them or they're making sandwiches, or it's just such a better vibe, like for the employees of the company, for the people that like experience it. It's like those are the things you remember. You're like, man, at mile 78, the guys and girls in Patagonia brought me a grilled cheese sandwich, and that was amazing. So it's really like an opportunity to really engage like these industry partners in a way that, like we don't have the capacity to run these aid stations, but we want them to be awesome. We're going to make sure that like there's plenty of water and electrolytes and energy food, but we want them to like, we want our partners to like take them over the top and add their own kind of personality and feel and vibe to them. And, like one year, like WTB, it was almost like you pulled into like a circus act. There was like face painting and, like mirrors that like were, those distortion mirrors, and, it's just like super fun vibe, and it's like, yeah, some people are racing, but some people like are going to stop and like eat a bunch of stuff and hang out and laugh. And, that's more of like the vibe we want. We want people to go fast, but we also want them to like, man, just look around. Like you're in one of the most beautiful places in the whole wide world. Like where else are you going to see, like you think it's a lake, but it's really just so many purple flowers that it looks like a lake. Like take that in. This is, don't always just rush around.
If you're doing face, if you're doing face painting, you should do Braveheart, Zach. That's what I think.
Oh yeah, that would be, especially on the 100-mile course. You need blue.
Do it. You guys should do it now. Like, dude.
Guys, I'm already a comic act out there to begin with. I don't need any makeup to.
Yeah.
Really
I think like if we could up something, and this is like maybe I'm like there's some photographers listening, right? It's like I always wanted to have it like where like when like you as a racer, right? You get like your picture at the start. You get your picture at the first aid station. You get your picture at every aid station, and you just watch yourself like, and then boom at the finish, so you can just see yourself like through.
They go from like to like,
yeah, but yeah, lost and found photo booth, where you just get to experience your day.
All right, so we're looking for a GBC to volunteer for that. You guys heard that out there?
No, I mean, like, you've always look at those pictures of presidents when they started their term and then when they ended, and how they don't age like natural human beings. Like, I don't want to show that off for me.
Yeah. And their hair always turns gray, no matter what.
Yeah, I'm almost there. Well, guys, thanks so much for coming on. Like, this is definitely like a highlight of the year for the gravel community. And if those that haven't been there, I know this is definitely worth a trip. And obviously with summer coming around, it's a great way to get away for a few days. And it's a super area up there. And now thank you guys for coming on.
Come visit. Yeah, like at the end of the day, like help us build out connected communities. That's why we do these events. Like we want you to come have fun, but just know like where your money's going, right? Like we're trying to revitalize an entire region and attract working families and get businesses rolling again. So like this is a gravel race, but this is like building a culture and an economy around an event.
Yeah.
So just know like where your money's going is like a good place.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's super important, you know, and we ad nauseum, you know, on the microphone during the events, and I say it all the time, and you know, we try to promote it with our website, even registration, but you know, and there are a lot of, you know, and rightly so. There's a lot of for-profit promoters out there that put on races and that have now been purchased by very large conglomerates, you know, that do that in race series. But just know that literally, you know, your investment in time, blood, sweat, and tears, and literally your dollar is going, you know, to an organization that will continue to promote outdoor recreation, your trails, your kind of trails, and create a recipe book that potentially could go nationwide or even global. And I mean, that's what we do. That's our bottom line. And, you know, a lot of racers are there to race, but there are a lot of folks that understand that, you know, when you click that button and register, and you've spent those dollars, and you come on site and maybe spend a little more on some merch or, you know, some beverages and food, that you know, that net profit from those, you know, with great partnerships and support from our partners and sponsors, is going right back onto the very trails that you ride, the road systems, into the Forest Service, and for generations to come. So that, you know, especially when the four of us are no longer here, there's some young ones out there that know that what we're talking about tonight will allow them to enjoy what we got to enjoy, and maybe even an easier pathway to do so. So
yeah, so you guys are basically authors of a gravel redemption story, and all of us, you guys out there too, we get to, you know, kind of play part in that story. I love that. It's so freaking cool.
Takes all of us.
Yeah. Yeah. And we thank you guys. I mean, getting the word out, you know, these, and interacting with folks, and you know, via podcasts and live shows. I mean, it's important. I mean, for such a huge, almost $1 trillion industry, you know, not a lot of folks know that, but let's make sure that these next generations coming up will step into every single one of our shoes, doing these podcasts, doing the trail work, doing the trail building, and getting the sponsorships. And you know, we'll know that we left a good legacy. Sure. And if you can put it on a tombstone, there you go.
God, you guys are really planning ahead.
Marty's got big plans, but I'm gonna live from 100 at least. We got trails to build.
Yeah, I'm just trying to make it bathroom. Well, guys, thanks for coming on. And yeah, if you know, obviously we've got links that we'll share on this, but yeah, thanks for coming on, and you know, hope to see you in the flesh soon.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, yeah, Zack and Andrew, got to get north, man. We need to get you guys up here and take care of you, and Watson found you for a weekend, for sure.
Oh, I'm coming. I'm coming for some bike packing trips too. I'll probably nerd about a little bit off camera, but yeah, awesome stuff. I'm super excited.
All right. Okay. Well, thanks so much, guys. Hold on, but thanks for coming.